Hi, I'm Anna, and I think a lot about how the church, big C institutional church, and small c faith community church, can best teach and shape Christians amidst the brokenness of the world. How can we form communities of courage and hope when it's easier to just disappear into apathy and Instagram, putting trust in no one because everyone's a disappointment? As a reminder, just because God doesn't have limits doesn't mean that we are also limitless. We aren't in control. We can't save the church. But what we can do is follow the Holy Spirit as she moves and changes us, and hopefully makes us see some opportunities to make our faith communities a little more relevant, woke, even hip. It's all about context. I'm not advocating throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I'm not proposing we burn it all down, although some days I kind of want to. Instead, I propose the question of how can we avoid the trap of trying to put new wine in an old wineskin? Instead of letting that grape rot on the vine, why don't we try something new? Perhaps we could make an all-natural, sulfate-free rosé. The truth is, following the Holy Spirit will lead us to a new wineskin. The pandemic, this big reveal of a nation based on racism, the inequalities of capitalism and political insurrection means that the wine needs to change. And that old vessel is getting more and more obsolete. First, some brainstorming. When thinking about any aspect of your faith community, play the why game. Get to the why before the what or how, and that answer is different for each community. For example, we need more young families in church. Why? So our Sunday school is bigger. Why? So we can keep the church alive for generations. Why? So my legacy will continue. If we start with the why before jumping into the what and how and who, we can make sure the real nugget of God's grace and hope and love is at the basis of everything we do. Try revamping your media diet. Are you looking in the mirror when it comes to church resources, or are you gleaning new ideas, new ways of thinking about the church? Some of the things giving me life right now are seculocity, Learning from London, Mockingcast, Faith and Capital, Earth and Altar, Black Liturgies, Prayers from Terry, and Progressive Clergy TikTok. People are trying crazy things. Just steal their ideas, y'all. Use technology as a tool for evangelism, not a vehicle for what was. Check out the Noon Service out of Cincinnati and Imagine Church out of Atlanta. Play around. Use YouTube clips, music videos, breakout rooms. There's some super fun things that we can do in virtual church that we will never be able to do in the pews. I just wonder if, in the face of the unexpected and the pain of the world's brokenness, what people really need is a YouTube video of a vested clergy person in an empty church talking to a camera. Consider worship. The essential elements of bread, wine, fire, and water. Could this be transformed into candlelit yoga, bonfires, beach day? People are doing this and it works. Again, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Take your ancient chant and your right one to the lake at sunset. Have Rogation Day in the public park, complete with a thurible and all the vestments. Make sure to record and post it. Pass out tambourines and bongo drums and make a chaotic joyful noise along with the organ playing old school hymns. Make a line dance to them. Do the church clap. I'm not advocating for building from scratch. I'm advocating for using what we have and love in new ways. Warning, you may have to kill some sacred cows. Look around. What do you have available to you? I've had a successful Stations of the Cross for runners in downtown Cleveland, the tomb represented by an empty parking garage. A hike through the snowy woods of Advent with stops to read the freedom poetry of Maya Angelou. liturgies for chicken processing and maple syrup tapping at a farm, cook-alongs with chefs talking about cooking as a spiritual practice, soul-tending activities using found objects from home, theological reflections on images from the news, TikTok evangelism. Start with what you have, not with what you're missing. Small groups. A culture of small groups is perhaps one of the hardest cultures to build, and for sure one of the best ways for folks to deepen relationship with God, themselves, and others. Start with what you have. Form small groups for church people around EFM or Sacred Ground or men's Bible study and donuts or knitting and sewing circles or whatever. For other people, form small groups around tabletop games or beer brewing, Fortnite, yoga lattes, whatever the interests are. Build into the small groups actual formation, reflection, discussion, vulnerability, real talk. Let's take a cue from the ancients and the evangelicals and make this network of house churches and small groups be the foundation for the larger faith community that gathers corporately. Yes, you will have to rethink your budget. Are your building expenses precluding a line item in your budget for reparations? Is your revenue diversified, including space rental and for-profit fundraisers? Yes, we are allowed to charge money, hopefully on a sliding scale, for goods and services. Have you paid a millennial or any other trusted non-churchgoer to show up at your services, either virtual or in person, and give feedback? P.S. You fail if nobody talks to them, but you also fail if they get asked to be a Sunday school teacher on their first visit. Have them try to find you on a Google search and hear their reactions. Is your outreach ministry actually a front for charity? What does reaching out, look like in your community? What does your community need from you? Is it spiritual care? Is it access to internet? Is it organ recitals? Is it rent assistance? Can charity be evangelism? Could they be intertwined? Here's where we might think of prayer at food pickups, Bible study at soup kitchens, film discussions at the pantry. May your community ministries be so engaging and relevant that people get curious about what happens on Sunday mornings, or Wednesday nights, or Zoom. To be a real beacon of grace in a world that is just bleeding out right now means to be real. And maybe, just maybe, what was real and true and relevant and helpful back in the day is ready for a reset. For the church to form communities with fortitude and steadfastness and resilience, we need to be nimble. We need to listen to the Spirit, to our neighbors, to people outside the church, and we definitely need some new wineskin.